Hey, let's look at another guy. I really kind of like this. First of all, I like the name.
Right.
Names
can mean something
listen,
to
they
you,
could,
right?
As a safety, Nick Pickett.
Nick Pickett.
What a name, and to be on in a ball hawk type of position, potentially with the safety. What a name, Nick Pickett. I'm excited about this guy. This guy is 6'1", 187 out of California.
Wow, another California.
And he looks like looks like he's the real thing, Kevin.
You know, you've heard of the phrase pick six.
Oh,
interesting. It'll be seeing a picket six, maybe something like that.
I'm sure that's on the horizon.
Right. Well, I'm sure we may hear that. But I think I like the fact that Oregon is staying with California. They're in that pipeline. They're grabbing a player like that, I think, and to really insert him into the defense, where, again, we've seen a lot of struggles with the defense last year, running that 4-3, now going back to the 3-4. So we think about what that foundation was laid with Oregon and how they were able to run their cover two schemes and some of the packages that they were able to run on that the defensive backs. Speaking about them, that third tier. How important that is. And so I think this is another player that can really add, that has a lot of talent, that can really provide Oregon with some of that stability in that defensive backfield.
So, another one that I think is interesting, again, one of the only few recruits that were on the defensive line. I'd like to talk about Rucker Rightmire. And this guy is 4-star athlete, defensive tackle. He's out of Tennessee.
Wow, out of SEC country.
Now, this is interesting because wasn't he committed to them?
He was committed to the Tennessee Volunteers.
To Tennessee. So to flip that, he's going away from the great state of Tennessee.
Right, Peyton Manning.
With the University of Tennessee Volunteers, great historically.
Tradition, wow.
And coming out to join Taggart and company out here in Duck Country.
Wow. Talk about, imagine you're a coach, right? And you're going into that state or in that region, trying to, again, with a school like Tennessee, the tradition they've had, the Heisman trophies, the BCS title games, and even some of the championships. You look at what they were able to do and get in an in-home visit, possibly, get there into Tennessee, pull that player out of that region and bring him to Oregon. Because again, that's some flyer miles, right? So you're selling the family on, hey, Oregon is a place for your son. We know that he'll be able to thrive where he's at. We need the defense. Defensive line has always been something for Oregon in recruiting, from the Chip Kelly system to Balati, to even Helfrich. As past coaches of Oregon, that this is a huge need that Oregon does need. They need the size, they need the height of a defensive player like this coming out of that region.
Yeah, so another on the defensive line we want to talk about, we've got Jordan Scott. This is a 3-star defensive tackle out of Florida.
Jordan, Jordon.
Yep, Jordan.
Yes.
Jordan Scott. Defensive tackle out of Florida. He's 6'1", 350 pounds.
Wow. So providing some size. Really, when you think about the gaps that offenses are going to run, this is a gap stopper, right? He's going to be the one that's plugging that gap with size, being able to push that offensive line back a little bit or plug those holes. So yeah, I think that's where Oregon is trying to do, get the size. They want a little bit of balance, I'm sure, with the size and the height. But again, a player like that being able to provide some of that stopping power for those offenses that like to run the ball or they like to do something else on their offensive.
Well, and we've just touched on a couple of the players that Oregon has signed as letters of intent to play at the University of Oregon. In fact, I think Braxton Burmeister is even enrolled already, graduated early, and then is actually attending classes right now. So that shows a commitment already from a young man ready to get going on his college degree.
Yeah, that's a commitment in itself.
Yeah, right. And then to get in that weight room and get into the film room and get some studying done for the football field too. So we'll talk more about recruiting. This is kind of our first installment on recruiting, and we've got quite a few more guys to talk about.
Which is interesting where we're at so far. We haven't heard Texas brought up yet.
Yeah, actually.
Nobody in Texas. Oregon has had a huge pipeline in Texas from previous times. So with Chip Kelly's era,
yeah,
we
and
don't
I
see
haven't
that.
seen any. And you know, I think Scout.com has the Ducks ranked 17th in the nation
Right.
for the recruiting class. So actually pretty good. I mean, all things considered, when most of the 5-star athletes are going to either Alabama or Ohio State.
Some USC, of course.
Some USC. I think 7 5-stars are going to
Right.
USC. No 5 stars coming to Oregon.
Right. Which they've had previous 5 stars come to Oregon. We think about a DeAnthony Thomas, a Cole Ayerla, some of these other players that we've seen in Oregon come in. Canton Kamatule, obviously we know from last year, he's from out of Hawaii. Fortunately, wasn't able to fulfill that due to some medical redshirt issues or some issues there. But the thing is, though, again, the recruiting is that you just don't know what you have. You have an idea. It's nothing like where you say, oh, you go into your pants, you go, oh, I got a $5 bill. It's nothing like that. You know what you have, but it's developing and understanding if this fits your system. But I think the thing is that these stars mean nothing. We've heard it say over and over again.
Yeah.
These stars mean nothing. It's what you have in that program that develops this talent, and that these players, if they can flourish in that system, do well in school, stay on the program, right? There's some other extracurricular activities in college.
And
that
keep their head straight.
Right.
You know, that's all important.
But one
too.
thing we've seen consistent here, though, D, has been what we've seen on social media, hashtag Florigan.
Yeah, hashtag Florigan. So the pipeline now from Florida to Oregon
Right.
In full effect with Taggart coming
Yes.
and kind of bringing some guys with him that are his guys. I mean, he recruited them down to South Florida.
Right.
And some of these guys are joining him all the way up here in Oregon.
You know, it's been said that he makes an in-home visit and the families are blown away.
He's very personable.
They're personal. They're blown away.
You know.
The kids like him. But the other thing too is, if we've noticed something that we've haven't seen before, we saw some photo ops with photo shots of Helfrich with the player visiting, but we've seen Taggart going out to these homes and actually throwing up the O sign, actually getting them involved with their coaches. So I see a little bit more being more personable, more intimate.
Well,
in that
and you
sense.
see also, coaches, both Jim Leavitt, you see him on the social media, talking about how beautiful Oregon is and how, where he's stopping to eat sometimes. And it really is kind of a melding
Mm-hmm.
of, the modern social media and the
Where
old
it's at now.
and the old school.
Right.
Taggart, to me, he seems to command a level of respect that is exciting to a player. Like,
Right.
not in an intimidation type of way, but
Right.
more like, man, this is like a kind of like a father figure to me. I can look up to him, and I'm excited to play for him.
Right.
Which to me, that
important.
really says a lot. I mean, you see all the time about how people, oh, I can't wait to play for Nick Saban, or I can't wait to play for Urban Meyer, whoever it is. But
now Dabo Swinney.
Dabo Swinney. I can't wait to play for Willie Taggart. That's really great. I mean, he's basically coming up as if he's been a national figure.
Right.
For a long time, and he's just really new on the scene to most of us.
Right, and I think as we see with recruiting how it will go, we've seen Florida obviously being tapped and will continue to be tapped as far as that pipeline. But we are seeing that steadiness of Hawaii with Marcus Mariota. I mean, players are just saying, oh, he's the Heisman Trophy winner. Mariota has his own complex. So that in itself, Islanders, they come with their parents, they show them that again, this could be your son. If they come to Oregon, this is a potential. We've seen a Pacific Islander do it with Mariota. This can happen as well.
Well, and you got the #1 facilities.
Right. Again this year.
Again this year. And, how can you not want to play for the University of Oregon? I mean, you've got everything at your disposal. You got the uniforms, the money seems to be unending from Uncle Phil, and it's an exciting time to be a Duck, even though you're coming off of a losing season, which we're not used to here in Oregon. most of my kids' lives, the Ducks have been the team.
Right.
So for me, going through that season and then trying to look forward to the new season, it all seems very exciting, and like there's an anticipation that, we're not going back to that again.
It's going to be exciting. I think there's some things, if we look at that the roster of what they were able to do in the recruiting class, there are some missing pieces. We look at the defensive line, and now we have got a couple players, of course, that address the defensive line, but that, I tell you, it is one in the trenches. When you look at the offensive line and the defensive line, those are critical
that's
pieces
the
to
one
recruit.
that does
worries me.
It bothers me a little bit because you've got an investment, it seems, on the offensive line.
Sure.
And you have an investment, it seems to be, in the backfield with the cornerbacks and the safeties that are coming in. And you've got a couple of defensive linemen. But it just seems to be that the place of worry for me is that defensive line.
It is, because you're talking about, and I've always said this, it's about tiers, first tier, second tier, third tier. Your first tier, if you're running a 3-4 scheme, those 3 defensive tackles, they have to be ready, they have to be big, they have to be ready, strong, they have to have good technique. And then you look at also to the linebackers, if you're running with the you 4 linebackers, but you have one that goes in as a defensive end, but then drops back as a linebacker in a coverage.
You're talking about a tweener there.
Yeah, so
you can go either
way.
way.
Which they can do. They have that hybrid. Oregon's run that hybrid slash defensive end slash linebacker position, that they've done in the past with some of these players in the past in Oregon. But I think the thing is, though, you have to have, with those linebackers, you have to have height. Because, again, you're talking about a defensive line. If you're getting a tall defensive line, they have to have height to be able to see where that quarterback is throwing the ball to make a play on the ball. But then your third tier, if you're only looking at cornerbacks, you can only have a blitz come every once in a while from a cornerback, because, again, you have to surprise the offense a little bit about of that when you're making that play as his defense. But
same with the safety blitz.
Right, safety blitz.
You can't do that very often.
Can't do that very often. You got to choose your time and moments. But the concern for me is, again, linebacker position, not having that. Again, the good linebacker position you want to have is going to be something of a 6'2", 230, 240-pound linebacker in there that does have speed, does have size, but also length and being tall, because, again, it's deflection. It's those balls that are thrown up there that they're able to make a play on. I think the thing is, you do have some players like that that are coming, that are already at Oregon. You think of Lamar Winston, that is from Central Catholic. He's going into his, he was a redshirt freshman. He's able to now play a little bit more now, get involved. He has some good height, and I think he's a promise for what they have a linebacker position. Troy Dye. So again, you have some people that you can work with, but again, it's about replenishing the stable there of getting those players in there. And so that, in a sense, good recruiting class for a first-year coach. Mm-hmm. I applaud the effort there. He's been out there recruiting hard.
Well, and you saw that at least one, if not several, potential commits after Helfrich, and the it seemed to be for some of the recruits that there just wasn't a stability here at Oregon, and then you go out and make this hire, which seems to be a splash of a hire that, coming out of left field for some of us.
The name was a little unrecognizable, but again, it's just,
you're looking at it now, it's looking like a pretty brilliant hire. Now, of course, this is all on paper.
Right.
I mean, you're seeing a great recruiting class, but again, it's all on paper. We'll really see what this looks like in a few months when they put it together on the field. Because again, you're looking at a coach in Jim Leavitt, who is a 3-4 coach, coming back and reinstituting that 3-4 defense.
Which you think we've talked about on our other shows. Look at the history this guy's had in changing defenses, and come from ranked one time at 98th to the 1st at Kansas State. We look at also to Colorado, seeing what that defense was. We remember when Marcus Mariota was playing for Oregon. We saw Colorado was not very good on defense at all. But since then, we've seen when Jim Leavitt has been there, what he able
last
to
year he
bring.
turned it into the number one defense in the Pac-12. And again, we levied that a little bit because we had three of the bottom 5 worst defenses also in the Pac-12. So again, a good defense. We're not going to take anything away from him. Jim Leavitt seems to be an excellent hire. It looks like he's going to fit right in. He's going to turn this defense around, and that's what we're hoping for. And again, you're looking at the defense that he has there. That essentially was a 3-4 defense. So he's got most of the players that he needs, and maybe he feels like he has most of everything that he needs.
You know, and a lot of times with these coaches, you got to give them time. Again, being first-year coach, first of all, you see the coach his first year. He's put together assembled a coaching staff, other assistant coaches. You have to give it time to be able to kind of work together, the chemistry to build. Because you look at it, probably if this coaching staff stays together 3 to 4 years, you're going to start seeing some interesting changes with regards to our defense and offense, who they're recruiting.
Well, you know, this is our first installment of recruiting in 2017, and we're going to hit this up again in a couple of weeks.
Yes.
And kind of gauge how our players are doing in the locker room, the chemistry. We're just going to see what we can find to kind of present that to you.
And we will talk about some players. There will be some players we will put on notice in the sense of seeing where they're at, how are they looking, and what are they looking to make? Has there been improvements? We'll mention those things, but again, it's all about the whole aspect of the team, how they're able to kind of gel together with the coaching staff.
And what you do now is going to tell a lot of what's going to happen in the fall.
Right.
You've got to put those workouts together. You got to be committed as a team and as individuals, both to your school work, your education, and also on the field. There's just no rest. It's not like it's vacation time from now until the start of
work is
camp.
put in now. Work is put in now.
Yeah, so we're going to be checking in. We only touched a little bit on it. We've got a couple of highlights of some of the guys here. So recruiting is a big thing, and again, we're really excited about what is going to happen here for the future with the Ducks.
It will expand. It will expand. You look at recruiting, the pipelines that they'll be able to access, it will expand with Taggart. You just got to give him time to be able to assemble this team, see what he has in the cupboard, put it all together. And again, wins speak volumes. You get wins together, other players will notice and see what's going on, because again, it's some of these other players that have teammates of other teammates that start to recognize.
So this has been the FATT Show. I'm D.
I'm Kevin. Pleasure to be with you tonight.
And we're going to see you next time.
See you.